So I don't care how positive a person is in their conscious mind and how positive their thoughts are. If they're feeling negative, or they're feeling guilty, or they're feeling unworthy, or they're feeling insecure, that's mind and body in opposition. So then let's look at the next slide. In order for you to begin to program your subconscious system and autonomic nervous system, we have to get beyond the analytical mind. So it turns out the more analytical you are, the less suggestible you are. And our definition of suggestibility is your ability to accept, believe, and surrender to a thought or an idea without any analysis. So people who have a very broad and thick analytical mind, or very developed analytical mind, are less suggestible to certain things. A person who has a less of an analytical mind is more suggestible to thoughts and ideas, because they will accept, believe, and surrender to them without analyzing the material, and it'll begin to go from their conscious mind straight into their subconscious mind. So some people who are more suggestible, we could say, have a thin analytical mind, and people who are less suggestible, in the next slide, have a thicker analytical mind. So our job then is to move from our conscious mind to our subconscious mind and change our brainwaves. And this is what meditation is all about. If a person is in a high level of stress, or they're in their conscious mind, to some degree they'll either be in high beta, mid beta, or low range beta. Now, once they begin to think less and analyze less, their brainwaves begin to change, and now they're in alpha, theta, or delta. They are literally in the realm where they can begin to program their autonomic nervous system to begin to make new chemicals, to signal new genes, to begin to change their internal chemistry to a greater degree. Now, there are two ways that we use in our work for people to slip into the state. One way is that when you're stressed out and you're over-focused, and your attention is on your outer world, your outer world is only made of a few things. It's made up of objects, things, people, places, and time and events in your life. So then when you teach a person, instead of focusing on in a narrow focus, what we call a convergent focus, to open their focus and focus on nothing or space or energy, if they're sensing and they're opening their focus, they're not thinking, and they begin to slow their brainwaves down. And not only slow their brainwaves down, but slow them down into a more organized and coherent fashion. The second way we induce this state is when we have people become heart-centered. When they begin to put their attention in their heart area, they begin to change their breathing, they begin to regulate their breathing, they begin to feel their heart space, and they begin to put their attention there while they're breathing and allow their breathing to slow down. Once they slow their breathing down, they're less stressed. When we then ask them to cultivate an elevated emotion, if they're feeling those elevated emotions, they're thinking less. And if we ask them then to sense the space and radiate this feeling beyond their body and space, they change their brainwaves in a matter of seconds. And now they're beginning to open the door between their conscious mind and subconscious mind. So we have the techniques in place, and we've seen people do this in 4 seconds, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 9 seconds, 13 seconds, 15 seconds. They know now how to do it, and it's become a skill for them. So on the next slide, we could say then, as you change your brainwaves, the movement of consciousness is out of the thinking analytical neocortex, and as consciousness begins to fall out of the neocortex, now you are conscious, but you are in your limbic brain, or you're in the subconscious centers below the conscious mind. And the union of the conscious mind with the subconscious mind is exactly what it takes to begin to program your autonomic nervous system into a new destiny. And so this is why positive thinking doesn't work, because if you're thinking positively and you're feeling negatively, you can only accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts that are equal to your emotional state. And you will not accept, believe, and surrender to any thoughts that are not equal to your emotional state. So I don't care how positive a person is in their conscious mind and how positive their thoughts are. If they're feeling negative, or they're feeling guilty, or they're feeling unworthy, or they're feeling insecure, that's mind and body in opposition. Now, we know that the moment we change a person's internal state to a state of gratitude, to a state of appreciation, to a state of kindness, a state of thankfulness, the moment they change their emotional state and they get beyond the addiction of those stress hormones, and they're no longer in fear, they're no longer in worry, they're no longer in anxiety, they're no longer in guilt, shame, sadness, anger, aggression, fear. The moment they're beyond all of those and they're in a state of gratitude, gratitude means the event has already happened, or the event is happening to you. That's the emotional signature. When the person's in this state, now they're ready to accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to that emotional state, and they begin to program their autonomic nervous system into a different state of mind and body. So then getting a person beyond themselves and beyond their fears and their emotions, beyond their habits, and helping them find the present moment is exactly what it takes for people to become their own placebo. And so if they can't get beyond their conscious mind, then they're not in the operating system where true change can take place. And this is why affirmations do not work. They don't work because for most people, they want abundance, but they feel lack. They want health, but they don't feel wholeness. They want the mystical moment, but they don't feel awe. They want the new relationship, but they don't feel love. They're waiting for something outside of them to change how they feel inside of them. And the quantum model of reality is exactly the opposite, not living by cause and effect. In other words, not your personal reality controlling your personality, but your personality beginning to control your personal reality. It means that in order for you to have a healing, you have to feel wholeness and appreciation so that your body can heal. In order for you to have a new relationship where you feel love, you have to feel love before that relationship can occur. If you want to have wealth in your life, then you have to feel abundance before the wealth. And if you want to have a mystical experience, you already have to be in awe of life. And so then it's kind of contrary to how we've been conditioned. And of course, this is a subconscious belief. But when you get people into that state where they can teach their body emotionally how the future is going to feel ahead of the actual experience, now the thoughts that they're thinking begin to get past that analytical mind and begin to program their body and their genes to make new proteins to prepare their body for that future event. And the side effect of that, of course, is an unknown or novel experience in their life that they had never anticipated. We've also measured the energy around people's bodies when they do this. And they literally begin to emanate more photons. They go from particle to wave, from matter to energy, and they're freeing their body from the chains of the past. And when they open their heart, there's an expansion of the energy field around their body, and now they feel connected to something greater. They feel like they can trust in the unknown. They already have experienced the event, and they're no longer living in survival or living in stress. When people begin to live in stress, they begin to draw from this field around their body and turn it into chemistry, and the field around their body shrinks. We've measured this. Now they're matter trying to change matter. They're their brain trying to change their brain. They're their ego trying to change their ego. They're their personality trying to change their personality. The program trying to change the program. They're matter trying to change matter. But only when you begin to open your heart and you begin to broadcast the bigger magnetic field, once you have that field in place, the carrier of the thought, the carrier of the information on that magnetic field is the thought. So when you combine that clear intention with an elevated emotion, now you're moving into a new state of being. And instead of relying on something outside of you to change something inside of you, you have changed something inside of you, and you should begin to see the effects outside of you. So in closing, beta is the outer world in the next slide. As you begin to change your brainwaves, you move into alpha. If you do this properly, you can move into theta, and the final stage, of course, is in delta. Now, delta typically is being sound asleep, but our students have been able to stay conscious in delta while they're processing very high amplitudes of energy in their brain, and of course, we're making history when we see this. But we could say that beta and alpha represent the conscious mind, and alpha, theta, and delta represent the subconscious mind. So getting people to combine their conscious mind with their subconscious mind is now allowing them to enter through the door of the autonomic nervous system and begin to make significant changes. Last slide. Outer world, things that happen to us in our life, changes our inner world. It changes our neural circuitry, it changes our chemical state, and it changes our genetic expression. If we begin to do the work and we have our inner world begin to change, our inner world should begin to change our inner world if we do this properly. In other words, as we begin to regulate our thoughts and feelings, we should see some biological changes in our neural circuitry, as well as beginning stages of chemical and genetic changes in our body. When we get consistent at this in producing a new state of being, our inner world should begin to change our outer world, and we call that a healing that takes place in our lives. So, in closing, I think that it's important for us to begin to become aware that we have all the biological and neurological machinery to do this, and that common people around the world are doing the uncommon, and they are beginning to heal by thought alone. Now, this is not a process of denial, to deny your condition or to deny your disease or malady. In fact, it's to measure it and to know where you stand, begin the process of transformation, and then go back after a period of time and to remeasure to begin to see if you're producing some changes in your health and in your life. And so it may take the repetition of this process to get good at changing your internal state, to get better at changing your brain waves, to diminish your stress hormones, and to begin to reprogram your subconscious states. And as I said, just like in those placebo studies, sometimes it may take a period of time. And people who actually cross this river to the other side, and they truly change themselves, I think the side effect of that now is that they're more happy to be alive, and now they're no longer defined by their disease or defined by their past. And so my suggestion then is to give it a shot, try it out, and begin to see if you can produce some effect in your life. Thanks for listening.